Hey, wow.
Happy KWOW Wednesday. I'm your main host, Professor O. North Korea. We hear so much about the leaders and nuclear threats, but what about the people? Is it true that they're starving? Do they dare to escape? What happens when they get caught? Stay tuned to find out the juicy details. North Koreans leave their country for freedom and in hopes of a better life. Staying in their country can mean starving to death. Battling with frequent food shortages, every ingredient is used to the fullest. Parts of the corn we throw out, North Koreans use. The cob, husk, leaves, and corn stem are all thrown in the grinder to make cornmeal. They crush bark of trees into powder to substitute for flour. Orphan children hang around train stations, picking crumbs off the ground and stealing food from vendors. Many of the children are so malnourished that even 15-year-olds can look like 8-year-olds. Those in slave labor camps are fed little portions of cabbage and corn. Many are so hungry that they look for bugs and rats to eat. And when they do find a little something to eat, they have to ask for the guard's permission. When people starve, they can eat anything. From a young age, North Koreans are taught that their country is the happiest and best in the world, that other countries are in worse condition. However, those who secretly watch the Chinese and South Korean news are well aware of the common luxuries they are deprived of. Working so hard for so little, many North Koreans flee for their lives. If caught, they're taken back to North Korea, and they're either imprisoned, tortured, and/or executed. For those who do cross safely to China, they must be careful of spies and police. While the two Koreas are next-door neighbors, their heavily guarded border filled with landmines is too risky to cross. To get to South Korea, the North Koreans must take the long, indirect route by traveling through China to Southeast Asia, where they can apply for an asylum. After living 10 years in China, under constant fear of repatriation, defector Hyun-seo finally made it to South Korea. To help her family in North Korea escape from punishment, Hyun-seo flew back to China. After picking them up, they took buses down to Southeast Asia, and they successfully dodged the police. They made it to Laos, where they had to bribe border guards. But then her family was caught and went to jail. She paid a fine and more bribes. Her family was released, but arrested yet again. With no more money to pay off bribes or fines, Hyun-seo lost all hope. A stranger saw her face of despair and asked what was wrong. Upon explaining her situation in broken English, the kind stranger gave her money to free her family. He also gave 2 other North Koreans to pay off their fines. Hyun-seo was lucky, but many others are not. Escaping North Korea is a bittersweet journey. While you gain freedom, the family you left behind in North Korea can be sent to slave labor camps. So why don't people tell their relatives and convince them all to escape? The more people you tell, the more likely you will get caught. All it takes is one person to report you, even an immediate family member, like your son. When North Korean defector Shin Dong-hyuk was 13, he turned in his own mother for planning an escape. She was hung and his brother was shot right before his eyes. At the time, Shin thought he did the right thing. He was young and he was following labor camp rules. If someone plots an escape, you turn them in. And so he did. Shin expected an award, but instead he was taken to the torture chamber. He was hung upside down and his back was burned. The guards wanted him to confess that he planned to escape with his family. You wonder, how on earth can he betray his own mother and brother? I was wondering the same thing. During an interview with Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes, Shin replied that he grew up not knowing what love meant. By title, they might have been family, but he didn't have an emotional attachment to them. The labor camps controlled every aspect of his life, and he didn't have the luxury of developing meaningful relationships. Believe it or not, Shin was born at the slave labor camp, and he lived there for the first 23 years of his life, and he would have remained there the rest of his life if he hadn't escaped. It's easy to continue with our lives after watching this video, but at this very moment, North Koreans are starving. Those who escaped are trying to hide from hidden spies in neighboring countries. They live their lives in constant fear, for if they're caught, it can mean death. And when they finally find a safe place to enjoy their newfound freedom, they experience a lot of culture shock. Some find it so difficult to conform to this different society that they return to North Korea, even knowing that they could be harshly punished. Curious to learn more? I recommend this book by Barbara Demick called Nothing to Envy: Ordinary Lives in North Korea. Even if you're not much of a reader, this book is a real page-turner. Some of the stories sound too crazy to be true, but you know what they say, reality is stranger than fiction. To further widen your knowledge, I've posted links to interesting articles and videos and interviews on my website at sweetandtastytv.com. Check out the latest blog post. The link to that post is in the description box below. Don't forget to let me know what you want to learn about Korea. I'll be tackling your requests one by one. I'll see you guys next week on KWA Wednesday and on Mondays and Fridays for Ramona Champion. P.S. I'm going to VidCon this week. If you see me, say hello. 안녕! The needles may be placed on your hands, head, ears, and feet, and pretty much anywhere else on your body. People are like pimples. If you keep poking them, they explode. Give them some space. Things heal over time.